Hey guys, Toboloco here, and I just wanted to do something a bit different today. We're not going to be playing any World Cup games or anything like that. We're going to be talking about FIFA 23 because it is pretty much confirmed that they will be having a World Cup mode for both Qatar the men's World Cup in Qatar, and the women's World Cup as well. So I just want to talk about it today because although I've already done a video expressing my sort of wants and needs from a World Cup game, now that I know it's DLC, it's kind of changed my mindset on what I actually want and what we probably want from the game as well. So hopefully you agree with my opinions and everything like that, and maybe you can provide your own opinions in the comments below. That would be really great if you guys could. So starting off, we're going to be talking about the men's World Cup DLC. But let me just say before we start this that EA, I am again disappointed that it's not a full World Cup game. I understand the circumstances of what we've been through for the last 2 years. You know, the pandemic has set everything back, and I do understand that. But there was a huge missed opportunity to have another standalone World Cup game in 4K, might I add, as well, on a new generation of consoles or PC or whatever you play on. It was a huge missed opportunity. So, which means that we're not going to get as much content from it, which is sad. But I do, however, understand the circumstances that happened for the past couple of years, and I know that EA are obviously trying to do this thing where, or all businesses even, where they put out minimum effort and maximum reward. So, of course, we all know it's DLC now. It's pretty much been confirmed, and there's only a few months left for it to come out. Remember, FIFA comes out in around about October, September time, so I reckon this DLC will probably drop maybe early November or maybe late October, hopefully anyway. And you could probably expect something similar to the 2018 Russia DLC that we got with FIFA 18. Now, a lot of people were disappointed with that DLC. Obviously, it didn't have as much content and stuff, but I feel that it was okay. Looking back on it, and I've been playing it on my channel as well, looking back on it, it was good for what it was. And it was okay, but there was some things they could have improved on, namely like the atmosphere and the teams and stuff like that. So FIFA 23 World Cup DLC, again, I am disappointed that it's not a full game, and I'm disappointed as well that there's not going to be any qualifying mode. There won't be any qualifying mode because there won't be enough teams, which is super frustrating for me as a international football fan and a fan of these World Cup games over the years, not to be having a qualifying mode. I think that sucks. I think that it's just going to be obviously the 32 teams plus a few qualified teams in there. You might see some new teams in there because there is potential for brand new teams to qualify for the World Cup. There will also be no story of qualifying, no be a pro mode either, which sucks, you know. Well, this is pure speculation, I don't know, but I reckon there'll still be no story of qualifying and no be a pro mode on the men's mode. I just can't see it happening. Like, it's going to be a very hollow shell of a World Cup game. Let's talk about the teams that should be featured in the World Cup game. Obviously, you're going to see the 32 qualified teams in there, and they all should be fully licensed to the brim. I'm not even joking. Like, if it's going to be a DLC, it has to be completely fully licensed. No excuses. I know EA, most notably, on the 2008 Euro game in Austria, Switzerland, the Netherlands were completely unlicensed, and it was like, what was going on there? Maybe there was a story behind it, I don't know. But yeah, every team should be, every qualified team should be fully licensed. Even with their managers, I think that should be a thing. If they can license the Premier League managers and La Liga managers and stuff like that, they can license these international managers. Although FIFA 22 was lacking a lot of international content, maybe because EA was holding it back for FIFA 23, or maybe they had licensing issues. I don't know. There's been a lot of licensing issues with these FIFA games recently, and I'm fairly sure FIFA 23 will be the last licensed game that EA put out from FIFA. So I don't know where the license is going to go, or will EA retain it or something. I don't know. They said that outright they refused to pay FIFA for the license because it was too much money or something like that. So we don't know. We could potentially be getting unlicensed qualified teams in this DLC, which would suck. It would really suck if that happened. As for the non-qualified teams, you saw them in the Russia DLC. We had about, I don't know, maybe about 15 to 20 non-qualified teams in there. And it was nice to have non-qualified teams in there, such as Chile and the Netherlands when they didn't qualify. And I reckon you'll definitely see that again this year with this World Cup, because there are some potential big names that might miss out on the World Cup, most notably Italy and Portugal, who play in a playoff sometime soon. So you definitely need the non-qualified teams in there as well. Just a little selection maybe, but I feel that the selection of non-qualified teams could be better. In the 2018 World Cup DLC, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not really too sure on how qualifying worked in 2018, they had China in there, and they had a few other teams in there that didn't really come close to qualifying, if you know what I mean. Like, I'm fairly sure China in 2018 didn't come close to qualifying. Yes, it was nice to have them in the DLC, but could you not, like, have put someone else more relevant to the game rather than just satisfying a ginormous market just because of money? I mean, I know it's how a business works and everything like that, but still, you know, in terms of football, it should have been someone that came close. Most notably, Syria. Syria came very close to qualifying in 2018, but they didn't feature in the World Cup DLC. So this year, of course, we got Mali and DR Congo, the new additions to World Cup playoffs in Africa. If they don't make it, then I still want them in the DLC. I still expect them to be in the DLC because, you know, they came really close to qualifying. If they get knocked out, then they should still feature in the game. If they go through, then obviously they'll be in the game. But yeah, I don't want to sound entitled in this video or whatever. I'm just laying out some opinions and stuff. Also, one point is, on this DLC, the atmosphere should be better than what it was on the Russia DLC. The atmosphere was lacking on the Russia DLC. There was no real sort of like chants in the stadium or anything like that. Yes, okay, they had the 3D crowd and that was nice and stuff, but it looked really, really basic. There was no cutaways to like fans dancing in the stands and throwing confetti and stuff, playing vuvuzelas, whatever, you know what I mean, like in the last games. And I feel like now that it's on Next Generation, we should be seeing that now. So yeah, better atmosphere. You know, I don't know how the Qatar World Cup is going to be in terms of atmosphere, because obviously it's in a country that has a lot of restrictions compared to somewhere like, I don't know, England or something like that, or Brazil or South Africa. But yeah, just more atmosphere would be nice for the game, just to make it feel like you're playing a better experience. The commentary should be better as well. I expect more commentary, just like on the Champions League mode that you get on FIFA 22. You know, more mentioning of the teams, the history of these teams and stuff that come through, mentioning of how they qualified and stuff like that. That should all be in there. Like, it cannot be just basic commentary. That would be so disappointing. In terms of stadiums, of course, we should see all the stadiums in the game as well that feature in the Qatar World Cup. Of course, there's a lot of controversy surrounding the Qatar World Cup, how those stadiums were built. I'm not going to go into that in this video, but yeah, we all know it, we all acknowledge it, that they should be on the game. As for modes and stuff like that, obviously you're going to have your basic World Cup mode, and I hope that that World Cup mode is more fleshed out, sort of like you can do training with your players and stuff like that, kind of like a mini career mode. I hope that it's like that. Although I highly doubt it. Of course, you have your Ultimate Team, which is like the 2018 one, where it was separate to the main game, and your coins did, like, it didn't, well, did they carry over or did they not? But your cards don't carry over, but your coins do, so whatever you do on the normal Ultimate Team mode can contribute to the World Cup one. I think that should still be a thing if you're a fan of Ultimate Team. I'm not really personally a fan of Ultimate Team, I don't really care, but back in 2018 I did play it for a little bit, and yeah, I got a few World Cup icons and stuff like that. You know, it was okay for what it was. but I reckon that the DLC still would be quite hollow and quite basic for what it is. Remember, the minimum effort, maximum return, and yeah. Was the 2018 DLC free? Was it free, or did we have to pay for it? I can't remember. I have a feeling that it was free. So it wasn't bad for a free DLC, but I mean, if they're going to put more work into it this time round, I wouldn't mind paying for it. Even if it's like, I don't know, £12 or something like that, or £15, I'd pay for it on top of FIFA if it's actually worth the money, if I can actually see that it's worth the money. So yeah, just rounding up the men's portion of this video, like I said, better atmosphere, more licensed teams and better licensed teams and better atmospheres and stuff like that. You know, just a better all-round experience. Of course, it's going to look good. Of course it is. It's in 4K. It's in the new generation of consoles as well, so it's going to look good, and more cutscenes and stuff. That I just want that. I just want it to feel like a World Cup game, just like 2010 and the 2014 game, and 2006 Germany as well. That felt like a proper World Cup game as well. That's all I'm asking, really. Now, let's talk about the women's DLC, because we've had a women's DLC package before on FIFA 19, although it was extremely underwhelming, considering that EA have been pushing the women's game through their games recently, and that's not a bad thing at all. I love it. I love that little mode, but it could have been more. It could have been a lot more. That little mode they put out on 2019 Women's World Cup DLC, it could have been a lot more, because what they released back in 2019 was you could do the final, and you can play as more women's teams. They added, I think they added like Jamaica, Cameroon and Thailand, I think. There might be some more, but I'm not too sure on those members. And it was cool, but you couldn't use those women's teams in a tournament. Whenever you went to a custom tournament, you couldn't do a custom Women's World Cup, which is really disappointing, because, like I said, EA have been kind of campaigning for women's football and stuff like that, and yet they put out a mode so basic and so lackluster. It was kind of a bit like, well, really? Is this really what you want to put out? Like, surely you want to make a good attempt at it, at least. Make it a full tournament mode, just like the men's DLC you put out in 2018. Maybe there were time restrictions and cost restrictions. I don't know. I mean, you could do a custom tournament, but you couldn't play as Thailand, Jamaica, or the new teams that they put in there, because on that tournament mode, they didn't exist on the base game. They only existed on the DLC when you went into that little part of the game, which didn't make any sense. Surely it should have been like, I don't know. I don't know. They should have just been added to the normal game. Anybody who's played that DLC will know what I'm talking about. You can't do a proper Women's World Cup. Whenever like you did the custom tournament, you're lifting up a basic trophy rather than the actual Women's World Cup, which is a minor complaint, but still, if you're a big fan of women's football and a big fan of international tournament football, then of course you're going to be disappointed. I was. I mean, I really wanted an actual mode, because I do content on YouTube based around international football, and it would have been cool to do a proper Women's World Cup. So what I want from this Women's World Cup DLC is obviously all the licensed teams that qualify for the World Cup. That has to happen. It cannot be just a random mixture of women's teams. Please don't do that, EA. Put all the qualified teams in there. I'm not too worried if you don't put any non-qualified teams in there, because at least if you put all the qualified women's teams in there, it will still be more than what we had in 2019. Again, I expect the same. I expect better atmosphere, more commentary based around the women's game, because NBA 2K did that with their women's basketball mode. Like, you go on that mode, you can play as a handful of women's basketball teams, and they had different commentary, it was a different atmosphere, and it felt like you were playing a WNBA game. All I'm hoping for that Women's World Cup DLC is just an actual mode where we can go through the group stage, go through the round of 16, quarter-final, semi-final, final, not just the final. Please don't do that. Don't be lazy, EA. Like, we want good content for this game. But like, I know it's DLC, and companies can sometimes get lazy with DLC, but please push the boat out, because there are a lot of people out here especially that I see on my channel, because I do a lot of World Cup content, that say they want a decent World Cup experience for the next generation of consoles. I think that's just only fair, right? I mean, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Maybe people don't want it, but I want it. And yeah, that's all I wanted to talk about in this video today. I know I've been sort of ranting and rambling quite a lot in this video, but I just wanted to put out my opinions and if you agree with me or not. Oh, and one more thing as well. If you're going to put a soundtrack for the World Cup game, actually use like decent music. Like the 2018 World Cup game, they only put the Jason Derulo World Cup song on there, and every time you start up that DLC, you hear that song, and okay, it's nice to hear it like once or twice, but not every time you go on that DLC, and it's the only song on that DLC. Like, could you just not use better songs? Like 2010 South Africa and 2014 World Cup have great songs and great soundtrack to accompany the game, so just make sure that, I know it's a minor thing, but just make sure the songs go with the actual experience. So obviously now that I know what we got, I can talk about it a bit more. Hopefully they'll update us as the year goes on and provide us some decent updates. I felt like with the 2018 DLC, they sort of told us it was going to come out, and then it just came out and there was no news in between. It was just like, oh, okay, like, no news or anything like that, just drop it on us like that. So yeah, I don't know when it's going to be released, and again, all these points I'm making in this video is just speculation and just my sort of wish list. It's not a confirmed thing, so whether or not we get more than what I say or less than what I say, don't blame me, it's just an opinion. So yeah, this was your video, I guess, about the World Cup DLC for FIFA 23, the FIFA World Cup 2022 DLC. If you did enjoy it, then give it a like and subscribe. Check out my World Cup gameplays if you're new here as well, if you missed the World Cup game. And yeah, this has been Toboloco, and I'll see you again for the next video.